Imagine stepping into your 50th birthday, a milestone everyone around you keeps whispering will be something grand. Your wife Willow flashes mysterious smiles whenever you ask. Your daughter Piper winks and says, "Dad, you're gonna love this surprise." Even your 23-year-old son Tomas, who never cares much for family stuff, teases 50th birthday. Dad, get ready. You start dreaming maybe a surprise party, a weekend getaway, or at least a cozy dinner with heartfelt toasts. But then when you open the door to your house that evening, it's pitch black. No cake, no balloons, no one. And then your phone lights up with an Instagram post. Your entire family wife, 2 kids, in-laws beaming on a tropical beach, raising cocktails with a caption from your son, "Dad won't even notice we're gone, ha ha." It's not a joke. This is my real story, Norman. A man who spent 25 years sacrificing for his family only to find out he's invisible to the ones he loves most. Today I'm going to tell you the story of the birthday that changed my life, about betrayal, pain, and the journey to rediscover myself. Stay with me, because this isn't just about a forgotten birthday. It's about what you do when you realize you've been abandoned by the people you trust most. It all started about 2 months before my birthday. I'm a project manager in Riverside, California, working 60 hours a week to keep my family comfortable. Willow, my wife of 25 years, is the woman I always thought was my soulmate. We have 2 kids, Piper 20 in college and Tomas 23 just moved out. I'm not a flashy guy, no fancy cars, no lavish vacations. I'm the guy who pays the mortgage on time, who set aside $500 a month since Piper was little for her college fund, who just gave Tomas $4,000 for his first apartment deposit, even if it meant keeping my 10-year-old truck a few more years. That's what a dad does, right? So when the whole family started hinting at something big for my 50th, I was genuinely excited. Willow kept telling me to be patient whenever I tried to pry. Piper giggled, "Dad, just wait and see." Tomas, usually glued to his phone, even said, "You're gonna be shocked, Dad." Even my father-in-law, Otis, who only calls when he needs his plumbing fixed, phoned to ask what day I'd take off for my birthday. I booked the actual day, a Tuesday, and started imagining maybe a party with friends or a family camping trip like when the kids were young. But I want to pause to talk about that feeling when your family makes you believe you matter. Have you ever felt it? That moment when the people you love most give you hope, make you think your hard work is finally seen. It's a powerful drug. Psychological studies show that recognition from family, especially on occasions like birthdays, triggers oxytocin, a hormone that makes you feel bonded and loved. I was riding high on that feeling, and I bet many of you have been there too. But what makes this story hurt isn't just that my expectations were shattered, it's how they were shattered with a cruelty I never thought my family was capable of. On the birthday itself, things started off wrong. At 6:15 a.m., my boss called begging me to come to the job site because of a burst water pipe. I'm the guy who shows up when needed, so I agreed, thinking I'd be home by dinner for the surprise. I called Willow from the truck saying I'd be late. She sounded distracted, just said, "That's fine," and hung up quickly. Odd, but I didn't think much of it. All day I wrestled with mud and broken equipment. No one at the site knew it was my birthday. I didn't mention it. I'm not the type to seek attention. Driving home at 5:53 p.m., I stopped to buy a nice bottle of whiskey, telling myself I deserved something. I pulled into the driveway, no cars parked outside, no lights on. I walked into the house pitch black. No balloons, no cake, no wife, no kids. I checked my phone, no texts, no calls. I called Willow straight to voicemail. Called Tomas, same. Texted Piper, no response. By 7:30 p.m., I was sitting alone at the kitchen table, staring at the unopened whiskey, starting to worry. Was there an accident? I called the local hospital, no record. Called Willow's sister Lindsay, no answer. Then at 8:14 p.m., I opened Instagram, which I rarely use, just to keep up with the kids. And that's when I saw a photo posted 3 hours earlier. Willow, Tomas, Piper, Otis, my mother-in-law, Kinsley, and Lindsay all grinning on a white sand beach, holding cocktails at a fancy resort. Tomas captioned it, "Family vacation mode activated. Dad won't even notice we're gone, ha." Willow replied with a smiley face, and "So true." Lindsay commented something about workaholic husbands who don't know how to live. Piper didn't comment, but she was there in sunglasses, looking like she was having fun. I scrolled further pictures of them, jet skiing, poolside selfies, a group dinner, all tagged at a resort I'd never heard of starting 2 days earlier. I sat there, I don't know how long, just scrolling through the photos, feeling like my heart was being torn apart. Can you imagine that moment alone on your 50th birthday, discovering your family not only left you behind, but publicly mocked you on social media? That ha-ha wasn't just a joke, it was a knife. Psychologists say family exclusion activates the same brain regions as physical pain. I wasn't just hurt, I was in agony, and the public nature of it on Instagram for their friends to see added humiliation. This wasn't a private oversight. This was deliberate disregard. I want you to think about this. Have you ever felt invisible to the people you love most? Maybe not to this degree, but perhaps when you do everything for your family and they take it for granted. That's what I felt, and it made me wonder, what had I become to them? Instead of calling or texting, I poured a glass of whiskey and started thinking. I'm not an impulsive guy, I'm a problem solver. I checked our bank account, $4,000, withdrawn from our joint account the previous Friday, the exact amount I gave Tomas for his apartment. Coincidence? I didn't think so. Then I found a credit card statement in Willow's email we used to share passwords. $113,000 in debt racked up over 3 years, from designer clothes and spa days to $6,000 spent at the resort. I screenshotted everything, the Instagram post, bank statements, messages between Willow and Lindsay I later found where they laughed that I wouldn't notice their trip. By midnight, I'd gone from hurt to angry to a cold, calculating state. I opened my laptop, created an Excel spreadsheet, and logged 25 years of marriage, who paid for what, who sacrificed what. The numbers don't lie. 82% of household expenses from my income, 94% of our retirement fund from me, 100% of the kids' college funds from me. What did Willow contribute? Most of her deposits to our joint account were withdrawn immediately for things like $200 scented candles or decorative pillows no one could use. I want to talk about this moment because it's important. When you're betrayed, especially by family, there's a point where everything clicks. Psychologists call it the crystallization of discontent, when scattered grievances form a bigger picture. For years, I felt guilty for working too much, missing a few school plays, or being tired on weekends. But now I saw the other side. My work paid for everything: Piper's tuition, Tomas's apartment, the house we lived in. This betrayal wasn't just a vacation. It was the culmination of being treated like an ATM, not a person. I didn't lose it or break things. I got methodical. I printed everything, organized it into a folder like a detective building a case. And I decided I wouldn't let them pretend nothing happened. To make this story relatable, I want to share about someone else, Susan, a 48-year-old nurse from Ohio whose story I heard. Susan worked night shifts for 15 years to support her 3 kids and her husband, a vintage car enthusiast. On her 45th birthday, she hoped for a family dinner, but instead, her husband and kids went to a movie without her saying, "Mom's always busy." She found out via her son's Snapchat post captioned, "Mom's probably sleeping, ha-ha." Susan confronted her family only to hear, "We thought you didn't like action movies." Her story is like mine. We were both providers, but our sacrifices were used as excuses to exclude us. This taught me something: families can unconsciously fall into roles. Breadwinner, caregiver, that no one questions. Those roles become traps, making you a function, not a person. 3 days after my birthday, the texts started coming. Willow Norman. "Where are you, Thomas? Dad, you okay?" Piper voice breaking, "Dad, please text back." By midnight, my phone was flooded with 47 messages. SMS, WhatsApp, Instagram, even email. The last one from Willow. "We're home tomorrow. Please be there. Need to talk." I didn't respond. Instead, I went out and bought new locks for the doors. Not to lock them out forever. I'm not that petty. But to send a message you don't get to walk back in like nothing happened. I sat on the back porch watching the texts roll in, scrolling through their Instagram. The contrast was unreal. Willow texting Norman, "I'm so worried," while her profile still showed her smiling at a beach restaurant 2 hours earlier. Tomas asking if I was okay, but tagging himself at a jet ski rental. Piper sending a teary voice note from a poolside cabana. I didn't sleep that night, just drank coffee and kept documenting every post, every statement, every lie. On the fifth day, they came back. I heard the Uber pull up. The doorbell rang, their keys didn't work anymore. I opened the door to sunburned faces and forced smiles. Willow held a gift bag, clearly a last-minute airport purchase. Tomas avoided my eyes. Piper was on the verge of tears. Otis and Kinsley stood behind, looking displeased. Willow started. They were so worried, called hospitals. The trip was pre-birthday, and they planned a special dinner later. I said nothing, just held up my phone showing Tomas's post. Dad won't even notice we're gone. Ha. Silence. Willow tried to grab the phone. I held it back. Otis demanded we talk like adults. I told him he wasn't welcome here and to leave. He was stunned the first time in his life someone told him no. After Otis and Kinsley left, I let Willow, Thomas, and Piper inside. In the kitchen, I put my folder on the table, screenshots, bank statements, the $113,000 credit card debt. I asked one question. When did I become worthless to you? Willow said I was overreacting. It was just a vacation. Tomas said his caption was a joke. Piper admitted the trip was planned months ago, originally including me, but Otis convinced Willow it was a chance to refresh the family without my negative energy. The truth came out. They'd built a narrative about me, Norman, the boring provider, the absent dad, the workaholic, to justify treating me poorly. They thought I wouldn't care, wouldn't notice, wouldn't hurt. I want to share another story to make this clear. Mike, a 50-year-old teacher in Texas, told me about his 48th birthday. His wife and 2 sons threw a backyard BBQ without inviting him because Dad's always grading papers. He found out via his son's TikTok video captioned, "Dad's probably grading, haha." When confronted, his wife said, "You're always so serious, we thought you didn't like parties." Mike started setting boundaries, date nights, no phones at dinner, and slowly regained respect. Mike's story is like mine. Confrontation done with clarity can be a turning point. But what made me different was I didn't just want apologies. I wanted them to see my worth. After the confrontation, things changed. Willow moved in with Lindsay, still trying to spin that I overreacted. She posted vague Facebook statuses about healing after unexpected changes, implying I was the problem. Tomas stopped texting, but one day he showed up disheveled and broke. The trip burned through his savings, and he couldn't afford his apartment. I didn't lecture. I made breakfast, taught him to budget, and watched him delete his social media apps at the kitchen table. Piper was caught in the middle, guilty about the trip, but loyal to her mom. I reassured her I'd always be her dad, paying her tuition directly to the school to avoid Willow's hands. Otis tried to strong-arm me, revealing he spent $600 on the trip, more than any vacation I'd ever taken the family on. I asked how much he contributed to Piper's college fund. He didn't answer. I told him the $25,000 in Piper's fund came from me every $500 monthly deposit over years. I told him to leave my house or I'd call the police for trespassing. He left speechless. Willow lost it, calling me cruel for talking to her dad that way, saying I was jealous of him. Maybe there's some truth. I don't have Otis's money, but I have my time, 25 years of work to build a family while he retired early on an inheritance. I separated our finances, covering the mortgage and utilities for 3 months to give Willow time to figure things out. I consulted a divorce lawyer but didn't file. Willow's credit card debt, now $133,000, came to light, and she expected Otis to bail her out. My sister sent whiskey and a note saying she always thought Willow was a princess. Mutual friends split. Some bought Willow's story, others saw through it. In the 3rd week, Willow and I talked for 4 hours. She admitted feeling distant for years, that we lived parallel lives because I was always working. I admitted I missed some events, exhausted from 60-hour weeks, but I reminded her I coached Tomas's baseball team, helped Piper with science projects, fixed the house, kept the cars running. I showed up the way I knew how, but not the way Willow wanted. We parted ways, Willow moving her stuff to Lindsay's, saying she needed time to find herself. Now, a month after my birthday, I'm changing. I swim 3 mornings a week, joined a hiking group, go for drinks with coworkers. I'm not just surviving, I'm living. Tomas comes over every Sunday to learn adulting. We cook, review budgets, talk about what matters. Piper splits time between me and Willow, trying to mediate. Willow texts daily, sometimes nostalgic, sometimes asking about bills. I respond to practical stuff, ignore the rest. Yesterday, I got a letter from her lawyer, reasonable demands, no financial disputes. I changed my Facebook status to complicated because life is. But one thing isn't complicated. I'm not invisible anymore. Not to my kids, not to my friends, and most importantly, not to myself. You guys, my story isn't about revenge, it's about boundaries. I didn't burn the house down, I built a new foundation. If you feel invisible, start small, set a boundary. Try a new hobby, have a tough conversation. Your presence is your power, and no one can take it away unless you let them. Share in the comments. Have you ever felt invisible, and what did you do to reclaim your worth? I read every comment and I want to hear your stories, but the story doesn't end there. A month after my birthday, when I thought I was starting to find myself again, another shock hit, as if fate decided to test me one more time. On a Saturday morning fresh from the community pool, my phone rang. It was an unknown number, but I picked up thinking it might be work. The voice was a woman, Karen, a manager at an event planning company in San Diego. She said she needed to confirm details for a surprise birthday party my family booked for me, but the $2,500 bill was unpaid. I was floored. A surprise party, I told her I knew nothing about it, and she apologized profusely, thinking she'd ruined the surprise. But when I pressed for details, she revealed Willow had reserved a banquet hall at a fancy San Diego restaurant for my exact birthday, with a menu for 30 guests, a live band, and a 50 Golden Years photo booth. But no one showed up, and now the company was chasing payment. It felt like a punch to the chest. A party. Then why didn't anyone say anything? Why were they at a resort instead of in San Diego? I asked Karen to email the invoice and contract. When I opened the email, things got murkier. The contract was signed by Willow, but there was a handwritten note in the company's internal email accidentally left in. Client Willow canceled last minute, said husband didn't deserve the party. Deposited $500 balance unpaid. Reading that, I didn't know what to feel: anger, hurt, or just exhaustion. Willow had planned a party, then canceled it and used my money to take the family on a vacation while mocking me online. This was a twist I never saw coming. Have you ever thought someone you loved could plan to honor you only to tear it down with a cruel reason like not deserving? That's when I realized Willow's betrayal wasn't just a moment of impulse. It was a series of deliberate choices built on resentment I never knew she harbored. I decided not to call Willow yet. Instead, I contacted Karen, thanked her, and asked her to keep it quiet. I wired $2,500 to cover the bill, not to cover up, but because I didn't want a small business to suffer. But I kept the contract and email as another piece of the puzzle. I started wondering what made Willow change plans. Did she genuinely want to throw the party then back out because she was mad at me? Or was it another game to make me feel guilty? I had no answers, but I knew I needed to dig deeper. So I went through Willow's old emails, ones I rarely checked because we trusted each other. And then I found a thread between Willow and Lindsay starting 3 months before my birthday. In it, Lindsay wrote, "I think you should do something big for Norman, show him you still care. But if he's still just working, maybe he needs a lesson." Willow replied, "I'm tired of trying, Lindsay. Maybe a family-only trip would be better. Norman won't notice." Lindsay shot back, "Haha, exactly. Take a vacation, let him fend for himself." That's when I realized the trip wasn't a random plan. It was a punishment, a way for Willow and the family to prove I didn't matter. This shock made me reflect deeper on my marriage. For 25 years, I thought we were a team. I worked hard, Willow managed the home, and we raised the kids together. But now I saw a painful truth. Willow had built a parallel life where she didn't need me, not because I was absent, but because she chose to erase me. Psychologists call this emotional estrangement syndrome, when someone gradually withdraws from a relationship, creating an unbridgeable gap. I started wondering, was I truly invisible, or had Willow decided not to see me? That question haunted me, and I resolved to find answers not just from Willow, but from the whole family. I called Piper one Wednesday evening, inviting her over for pizza and a movie like we used to when she was little. When she arrived, I didn't mention the email or the party. Instead, I asked about the trip, not to blame, but to understand. Piper hesitated, then admitted she felt weird not inviting me, but Otis and Kinsley convinced everyone I needed space and wouldn't enjoy a fancy vacation. She said, "Dad, I wanted to call you on your birthday, but Mom said you were probably busy, and I didn't want to ruin the surprise." I asked, "What surprise, Piper?" She looked down, mumbling, I thought it was the party. But then Mom said there was no party, that you didn't need it. My heart stopped. So Piper knew about the party, but Willow lied to her too. I hugged Piper, told her I didn't blame her, but I needed her to be honest from now on. She cried, promised to tell me everything, and for the first time in weeks I felt a spark of hope that I could salvage my bond with my daughter. But with Tomas, things were trickier. After our morning budgeting session, I thought we were making progress, but a week later I got a text from a mutual friend, Brian, who works at a bar near Tomas's apartment. Brian said Tomas showed up drunk, telling everyone I was a bad dad for abandoning the family after the trip. I was stunned. Not only was Tomas mistaken, he was spreading a false narrative. I called him, told him to come over now. When he arrived, I didn't yell. I showed him my folder screenshot statements, the canceled party email. I asked who abandoned who. Tomas, he was silent, then broke down, admitting Willow and Lindsay told him I was too controlling and the trip was a way to escape me. He said I didn't know who to believe, Dad. Mom said you didn't care about us. I realized Willow wasn't just betraying me, she was manipulating my kids, planting doubts about me to justify her actions. This twist pushed me to act bolder. I hired a private investigator not to tail Willow, but to dig into her financial transactions. I needed to know if there were more secrets, especially with the $133,000 debt. 2 weeks later, the PI returned with a report that chilled me. Beyond the credit cards, Willow had opened a secret bank account in her name, siphoning $15,000 from our joint account over the past year. Most of it went to Lindsay, who wasn't just a close sister, but a partner in a business venture Willow never mentioned. This venture, per the PI, was an online fashion boutique, unlicensed and hemorrhaging money. Turns out Willow and Lindsay's $200 lunches weren't just splurges. They were meetings to salvage a failing business plan funded with my money. I confronted Willow one evening at a neutral coffee shop, not my house. I brought the PI's report and the party contract. When I laid them on the table, Willow's face went pale. She tried to deny it, saying the secret account was to secure our future and the boutique was her dream. I asked about the party. She went quiet, then admitted she planned it to prove she cared, but canceled last minute because I didn't deserve it. She said, "Norman, you're always working, never noticing me. I wanted you to feel what it's like to be left out, like I've felt for years." That confession was both a stab and a release. Finally, I understood Willow didn't just betray me, she wanted me to hurt as revenge for the years she felt neglected. But what she didn't see was that her revenge didn't just break me, it broke our family. I didn't yell or walk out. I calmly told Willow I wouldn't cover her boutique debt and I'd take it to court if needed. I said I'd give her 3 months to sort her finances, but after that, we'd either rebuild our marriage on new terms or divorce. Willow cried, but this time I felt nothing. No anger, no sadness, just emptiness. I realized I'd spent 25 years loving someone who didn't truly love me, not in the way I deserved. But the story's not over. A week later, I got a handwritten letter from Kinsley, my mother-in-law. She apologized for her role in the trip, saying she was manipulated by Otis, who funded most of it to control the family. She revealed a shocking secret: Otis had done the same to her, excluding her from family events to cement his power. She wrote, "Norman, I see myself in you, the one who always sacrifices but no one notices. Don't let them take your light." That letter was another twist, making me see Otis not just as an arrogant father-in-law, but as a puppeteer controlling even Willow to serve his ego. I decided to meet Otis one last time, not to argue, but to end his hold. We met at a park near his house. I brought Kinsley's letter and read it aloud, line by line. Otis tried to interrupt, but I wouldn't let him. I said, "Otis, you built a family on money and manipulation, but I'm not your puppet. From now on, you're not part of my life or my kids' lives." He was stunned, speechless, and for the first time I saw him as small, not the powerful man I once feared. I walked away feeling lighter, like I'd cut an invisible chain. Meanwhile, Piper started coming over more, sharing stories about Willow and Lindsay fighting. Turns out Lindsay knew about the secret account and boutique, but blamed Willow when it collapsed. Piper said, "Dad, I don't know Mom anymore. She keeps saying you're destroying the family, but I see she's the one doing it." I didn't push Piper to pick sides, but I taught her to see the truth, not through words, but through actions. I started realizing that parenting doesn't end when kids grow up. Sometimes you have to teach them how to face the people they love most. Thomas, meanwhile, kept coming every Sunday, and I saw him change. One day he brought a surprise, a framed photo of us fishing together when he was 10. He said, "Dad, I'm sorry for not seeing who you really are. I want to start over." That was the first time I cried in months, not from pain, but from hope. I realized that no matter what Willow or Otis did, I still had my kids, and I could rebuild with them one step at a time. But another shock hit in the 6th week after my birthday. I got a call from Willow's lawyer saying she wanted to negotiate to keep the peace. But when I met the lawyer, he revealed Willow had hired a PR firm to manage her reputation on social media, spreading a narrative that I was a controlling husband trying to destroy her out of jealousy. I was floored. Not only did she betray me, she was rewriting the story to make me the villain. I asked the lawyer for proof, and he, perhaps disagreeing with Willow's tactics, sent me an internal email from the PR firm. It suggested emotional posts from Piper and Tomas to sway public opinion, and even hinted Willow should allude to my mental health to gain sympathy. Reading that email, I felt betrayed all over again, but this time I wasn't surprised. I'd learned Willow would do anything to protect her image, even sacrifice the truth. I decided not to stay silent. I didn't post on social media or air dirty laundry, that's not me. Instead, I emailed Piper and Tomas, attaching the PI's documents and the PR email explaining everything clearly. I wrote, "I'm not asking you to pick sides, but I want you to know the truth. You deserve respect, and so do I." Piper called me right after crying, saying she didn't know about the PR plan. She confronted Willow, and for the first time, Piper took my side, telling her mom she wouldn't play her game. Tomas met me that Sunday and said, "Dad, I'm sorry for believing Mom. I want to be here with you." It was a small victory, but to me it was worth more than any apology from Willow. But the drama didn't stop. A month later, I found out Lindsay, who'd called me a workaholic on Instagram, tried hacking my new bank account. My PI traced an email from Lindsay to a shady IT specialist asking for access to my account to take back what belongs to my sister. Luckily, I'd changed all my passwords and added 2-factor authentication, so she failed. I confronted Lindsay over the phone, not to argue, but to warn, "If you try touching me again, I'm going to the police." She panicked, apologized, and admitted she was pressured by Willow to protect the family. I realized Willow wasn't just manipulating my kids. She'd roped her whole family into her game, turning them into accomplices in her bid to control the narrative. Now, 2 months after my birthday, I'm at a crossroads. Willow still reaches out, alternating between nostalgic texts. "Remember our Yosemite camping days?" and veiled threats. "If you don't settle, this will get ugly." I don't engage emotionally. I only respond about finances or legal matters. Piper and Tomas are closer to me, but they still grapple with loyalty to their mom. Otis hasn't contacted me, but I heard from Kinsley he's furious about losing control of the family. Meanwhile, I keep building my life. I joined a cooking class, met new friends who don't know my drama and just see me as Norman, the guy who makes great tacos. I started a journal not to dwell on pain, but to record what I'm learning about myself, that I'm stronger than I thought, that I deserve love, not for what I provide, but for who I am. But one final twist came last week. I got an anonymous package delivered to my workplace. Inside was a USB and a handwritten note, "Norman, I'm sorry. Watch this." I carefully checked the USB on an old computer, and it contained a video security footage from the resort where my family went. It showed Willow and Otis at the front desk arguing heatedly on my birthday. Otis said, "If you want Norman to know his place, don't call him." "Let him figure it out," Willow replied. "Dad, I'm not sure. Is this too much?" Otis laughed. "Too much. He needs to know this family doesn't need him." The video ended with Willow nodding, though she looked hesitant. I don't know who sent the USB. Maybe a resort staffer. Maybe Kinsley. But it confirmed what I suspected. Otis wasn't just funding the trip, he was the mastermind. And Willow, though complicit, was led by him into this plan. That video was the final straw. I didn't hate Willow anymore. I pitied her, a woman trapped in her own father's manipulation. But pity doesn't mean forgiveness. I sent the USB to my lawyer, asking him to add it to the file if we go to court. I also sent copies to Piper and Tomas, not to turn them against their mom, but to let them see the full truth. Piper called me crying, saying, "Dad, I don't want to see Grandpa anymore." Tomas, for the first time, wrote a long email thanking me for my patience and promising to be a better son. Those moments, small as they were light in the darkness. Now I'm walking my own path. I don't know if Willow and I will divorce or find a way to reconcile, but I know one thing: I'll never be invisible again. I've learned that family isn't the people you sacrifice for, it's the ones who see you, respect you, and stay with you even when things fall apart. You guys, if you're watching and feel like you're fading in your own life, pause. Ask yourself who really sees you. And if the answer is no, start with yourself. Set boundaries, find joy. Speak your truth. That's what I'm doing, and I promise you it's worth every second. The resort video was a bombshell, but it wasn't the last thing to shake me. After sending copies to Piper and Tomas, I thought I had the full truth. Otis was the puppet master. Willow was the enactor, and I was slowly reclaiming my kids. But life, as you know, always throws curveballs when you least expect them. On a Tuesday afternoon, about 3 months after my birthday, I got an email from a strange address, no name, just a random string of numbers. The subject line read, "Norman, you need to know this." I hesitated, thinking it might be spam or a trick from Lindsay, but curiosity won. I opened it on an old computer just in case it was a virus. Inside was an audio file and a single line, "Listen to this. This is what they said when you weren't there." I hit play, and what I heard made my blood run cold. It was a recording clearly taken covertly of a conversation between Willow Otis and a man whose voice I didn't recognize. The talk happened in a restaurant, clinking glasses and soft jazz in the background. Otis said, "Willow, you need to be decisive. If you want out from Norman, go big." The trip was just the start. Willow replied, her voice shaky. "But Dad, if he finds out, he won't forgive me. He's not stupid." The stranger chimed in, "Don't worry, I've handled stuff like this before. We can make him look like the problem, maybe alcoholism or worse. I know some guys in Riverside who can help." Otis laughed. "Good, Norman needs to know this family is mine, not his." The recording cut off abruptly, but not before I heard Willow say, "I'm not sure, but if it's the only way, I'll do it." I sat there, hands shaking, unable to believe my ears. This wasn't just a trip to punish me. This was a calculated plan to ruin me, not just in my kids' eyes, but maybe in the community's. Who was this stranger? And what were guys in Riverside? I immediately sent the audio to my lawyer, asking him to verify its authenticity. While waiting, I couldn't stop thinking about Willow's words. If it's the only way, I'll do it. The only way to what? Get rid of me, take all my money, or something worse? You guys, have you ever found out the people you trusted most weren't just betraying you, but plotting to destroy you? It's like standing on a cliff, not knowing if you'll fall or hold steady. My lawyer called back 2 days later, confirming the audio was real, no signs of tampering. He also identified the stranger, a guy named Greg, a self-styled consultant in San Diego, known for helping wealthy families resolve personal issues in less than clean ways. Greg had been investigated for fabricating evidence in a divorce case, but was never convicted. My lawyer advised taking the audio to the police, but I wasn't ready. I needed to understand their full plan, and I wanted to confront Willow first. But before that, I called Piper and Tomas, asking them to come over that evening. I didn't mention the audio, just said I needed a family talk. When they arrived, Piper looked nervous, and Tomas was fidgety, like he sensed something coming. I started by asking about their mom. Piper said Willow had been stressed fighting with Lindsay over money and responsibility. Tomas added that Willow tried convincing him to go back on Instagram to tell the family's story, but he refused. I nodded, then played the audio. As Otis and Willow's voices filled the room, Piper covered her mouth, eyes wide. Tomas clenched his fists, face red. When it ended, Piper cried, Dad, how could Mom do this? I thought she was just mad at you, not..." This Tomas, showing anger for the first time, slammed the table, Grandpa's trash. "I'm done with him." I hugged them both, saying I didn't want them to hate their mom or grandpa, but I needed them to know the truth to protect themselves. I asked them not to say anything to Willow. I wanted to handle it myself. That night, I didn't sleep. I thought about 25 years of marriage, the late nights fixing Willow's car, the early mornings making breakfast for the kids. How does someone go from love to plotting your downfall? I recalled a psychology study I read recently about moral disengagement, when someone justifies their wrong actions by convincing themselves the victim deserves it. Willow had done that with Otis's help, but Greg, this consultant, was a new factor, and I knew I needed to dig deeper. I contacted my PI, asking him to investigate Greg. While waiting for results, I got an unexpected call from Kinsley, my mother-in-law. She was crying, saying she just found out Otis had hidden a bank account from her funneling money to support Willow and Lindsay without anyone knowing. She said, "Norman, I didn't know Otis had gone this far. I sent that USB because I couldn't stand him destroying the family anymore." I was stunned, so Kinsley sent the resort video. I thanked her, and for the first time, I felt a real connection with her, like we were two victims of the same manipulator. The PI's report on Greg came the next week, and it was another bombshell. Greg wasn't just a consultant, he ran a network of shady services from forging documents to hiring trackers. He'd worked for Otis for over a year, not just on my case, but to control Willow and Lindsay's investments. Turns out Willow and Lindsay's boutique wasn't a random dream. Otis funded it to keep Willow dependent on him while Greg handled the sketchy legal details. The report also revealed Greg had tried gathering dirt on me, including my work schedule and daily habits, possibly to frame me as unstable or dangerous. Reading it, I felt a chill. This wasn't just family drama, this was an organized plot, and I was the target. I decided to meet Willow again, this time with my lawyer present. We met at his office, a neutral space with big windows overlooking Riverside. When Willow walked in, she looked exhausted. Not the confident woman who'd mocked me on Instagram. I didn't beat around the bush. I laid out the audio, the PI's report, and the party contract. I said, "Willow, I know everything, your plan. Otis's, Greg's. I don't want to destroy you, but I won't let you destroy me. You have one chance to tell the truth now." Willow collapsed into a chair, sobbing. She confessed that Otis convinced her I didn't love the family anymore, and Greg suggested the trip as a way to teach me a lesson. She said she didn't know Greg's plan went that far, that she just wanted me to wake up and notice her. But when I asked about the secret account and the boutique, she went quiet, then admitted she used my money to keep up appearances with Lindsay and Otis. She said, "Norman, I'm sorry, but I felt I had no choice." Her apology didn't make me feel better. It just showed me Willow had chosen her path long ago, and I couldn't change her. I told her I wouldn't pursue legal action if she agreed to a fair asset split and stopped spreading false stories about me. She nodded, but I saw unease in her eyes, like she knew Otis wouldn't let it end easily. My lawyer drafted a temporary agreement requiring Willow to repay the money she siphoned from our joint account, and we agreed to meet again in a month to discuss divorce or reconciliation. But family drama is never clean. A few days after the meeting, I got a text from Brian, my friend at the bar. He said Otis showed up there drunk, bragging he'd put Norman in his place by hiring the best lawyers in California. Brian, loyal as ever, recorded the conversation and sent it to me. In it, Otis said, "Norman thinks he can fight me. I built this family and I'll tear it down if I have to." Hearing that I wasn't scared, I was furious. Otis didn't just want to control Willow and the kids, he wanted to destroy anyone who challenged him, including me. I decided to go all in. I sent Otis's recording along with the restaurant audio and resort video to a friend who works at a local Riverside newspaper. I didn't want to go public, but I wanted Otis to know I had evidence and was ready to use it if he pushed too far. My friend, a reporter named Sarah, agreed to keep it confidential, but contacted Otis under the guise of an interview about family issues in Riverside. She asked him about allegations of financial and emotional manipulation in his family without naming me. Otis panicked, cut contact with Sarah, and hasn't reached out to me directly since. Sarah later told me Otis left Riverside for a while, possibly to dodge attention. Meanwhile, Willow, after the article dropped, showed up at my house unannounced the first time since moving to Lindsay's. She looked haggard, hair a mess, no trace of the confident woman who posted on Instagram. She begged me to drop all charges and forgive her, saying Otis forced her into everything, that she had no choice. I asked Willow, "How many chances did you have to tell the truth? You chose Otis and Greg over me, over the kids. Why should I trust you now?" She cried. But this time I saw her tears weren't from remorse, they were from losing control. I told her to leave, and for the first time I felt I'd truly let go of Willow, not because I hated her, but because I didn't need her to feel worthy anymore. But another shock came right after. Piper, while cleaning her old room at Lindsay's, found a box of documents Willow had hidden. Inside were contracts, invoices, and a handwritten journal by Willow detailing her thoughts over the past year. Piper brought the box to me, saying, "Dad, I think you need to see this, but I'm not sure I want to know." I opened the journal, and what I read broke my heart and enraged me. Willow wrote that she loved me when we first married, but over the years she grew to resent me for only working. She wrote about Otis convincing her I didn't deserve the family and that the trip was her way to take back power. But what shocked me most was an entry days before my birthday. I hired Greg to follow Norman. If he reacts the way I think, I'll have a reason to leave without blame. It was undeniable proof Willow wasn't just manipulated, she actively planned to trap me to paint me as the villain. I gave the journal to my lawyer, who said it could change the entire case if we go to court. But I didn't want to rush. I wanted Piper and Tomas to have time to process what they were learning about their mom. I invited them for dinner, and this time I held nothing back. I read a few journal entries aloud, not to make them hate Willow, but to show that love doesn't mean accepting betrayal. Piper cried, but said, "Dad, I still love Mom, but I can't be around her anymore. I want to stay here with you." Tomas, usually stoic, took my hand and said, "Dad, I won't let Mom or Grandpa hurt you anymore. I promise." Those words, you guys, were the strongest medicine I've ever had. But the story's not done. A week later, I got an email from Amanda, Willow's old college friend. She said she'd just met Willow at a San Diego cafe where Willow confessed she was planning something new to win me back. Amanda, disapproving of Willow's actions, called me because she thought I deserved a heads up. According to Amanda, Willow had reconnected with Greg the consultant to create a new scandal. Specifically, she wanted to hire someone to spread rumors I was having an affair to discredit me with Piper and Tomas. Amanda said, "Norman, I don't know you, but I can't let Willow do this. She's not the person I used to know." I thanked Amanda and immediately contacted my lawyer. We filed a motion for a restraining order against Willow contacting Greg or anyone tied to illegal activities backed by Amanda's statement and the PI's report. I also met with Piper and Tomas, telling them about their mom's plan. This time, they didn't cry, they were angry. Piper said, "Dad, I'm done with Mom. I want to stay with you." Tomas, in a moment that made me proud, said, "I'm confronting Mom. She can't keep hurting you." He called Willow right in front of me, saying if she didn't stop, he'd go public with everything on social media, a powerful threat since Instagram is where this started. Willow called me the next day, begging me to withdraw the motion. She said she didn't mean to hurt me, that she was panicking about losing the kids. I didn't believe her anymore, but I agreed to pause the restraining order if she signed the financial agreement and joined marriage counseling with me, not because I wanted to reconcile, but because I wanted her to face the consequences of her actions in a controlled setting. She agreed, but I know it's only a temporary win. Otis, though quiet, remains a looming shadow, and I'm not sure he'll give up easily. Now, 4 months after my birthday, I'm living a life I never imagined. I still swim, still hike, and my book is taking shape not to expose my family, but to share what I've learned about self-worth. Piper lives with me, learning to make tacos and making me laugh with her college stories. Tomas comes every weekend, and we're planning a fishing trip, just the two of us, like old times. Willow and I are in counseling, but I know my heart's not in it. I've filed for divorce not out of anger, but because I deserve to live without looking over my shoulder. But last week, another twist came. I got a call from a woman named Laura, a former employee at the resort my family went to. She said she was the one who sent the USB video after overhearing Otis and Willow talk about me at the front desk. She called to apologize, saying she felt guilty for not acting sooner. But then she revealed one final detail. Otis had tried to bribe resort staff to fake a video of me causing a scene if I ever showed up, as a way to bolster the narrative that I was unstable. Thankfully, Laura and her colleagues refused, which is why she sent me the real video. I thanked Laura, and for the first time I felt deep gratitude, not just for her, but for all the strangers from Carl to Amanda to Sarah who stepped up to help me when my family didn't. You guys, my story is the long journey from an invisible man to one standing firm in his own light. If you're watching and feel forgotten, manipulated, or overlooked, remember you have the power to change your story. It doesn't have to be a big drama like mine sometimes. It's one small step, like saying no or standing up for yourself. Share your story in the comments. I want to hear, and I'm here to support you. Thanks for staying with me through this long tale. Keep following, because I'll share more about what I'm learning, and I hope it helps you find your own strength. The Hawaii trip is on my horizon, a chance to enjoy life without needing anyone's approval. But just when I thought I could leave the drama behind, another storm hit, as if fate decided my story wasn't dramatic enough. On a Monday morning, as I was getting ready for work, a man knocked on my door. He wore a cheap suit, sunglasses, and introduced himself as Carl, a friend of Greg, the shady consultant I'd uncovered through the audio. Carl didn't mince words. He said, "Norman, I'm here to warn you. Otis and Greg are planning something new, and this time they don't just want to humiliate you, they want you to lose everything." I invited Carl in not because I trusted him, but because I needed to know what he knew. In the kitchen with 2 cups of coffee between us, Carl dropped a bombshell. Otis had hired a lawyer in Los Angeles to sue me for financial abuse, claiming I deliberately cut off Willow's finances to punish her. Worse, Greg had gathered evidence, fake photos of me at bars, actually just times I grabbed drinks with coworkers, and a fabricated report claiming I'd transferred money offshore to evade family responsibilities. It felt like the ground collapsed beneath me. This wasn't just a threat, it was a full-on assault designed to ruin my reputation and finances. Carl said he came because Greg hadn't paid him and he didn't want to be tangled in a dirty lawsuit. He handed me another USB saying it contained emails between Greg and Otis, plus some of the fake documents they planned to use against me. I asked Carl why I should trust him. He shrugged. "You don't have to, but if I were you, I'd check that USB before Otis files the lawsuit." After Carl left, I plugged the USB into my old computer, heart pounding. Inside were dozens of emails with Otis instructing Greg to find any way to make me look like an irresponsible deadbeat. One email even mentioned hiring someone to tail me, snapping photos in questionable situations. But the most shocking was a forged document styled like a bank statement showing I'd transferred $50,000 to an account in the Cayman Islands, an account that doesn't exist. You guys imagine knowing someone doesn't just want to hurt you, but wants to erase you from your own family's life. This is what psychologists call identity destruction, a manipulation tactic to discredit a victim so they can't fight back. I wasn't just angry, I was scared, but not the kind of fear that makes you run. It was the fear that pushes you to act. I called my lawyer immediately, sending him the USB's contents. He said it was powerful evidence, but we needed to move fast before Otis filed. He suggested filing a countersuit against Otis and Greg for defamation and document forgery, plus requesting a court investigation into Greg's activities. I agreed, but I also wanted one more thing: to confront Otis face-to-face, not to argue, but to let him know I wasn't his puppet anymore. I arranged to meet Otis at a small diner on the outskirts of Riverside where few people go. When I walked in, Otis was in a corner, looking older than I remembered, but still radiating smugness. I didn't sit. I placed the USB on the table and said, "Otis, I know everything. The lawsuit plan, the fake documents, all of it. If you file, I'm taking this to court and I'll make sure everyone in Riverside knows who you are." Otis smirked, but I saw his eyes flicker. He said, "Norman, you think you can scare me? I have more money and better lawyers than you," I replied. "Maybe, but you don't have the truth, and I do. If you want to destroy this family, go ahead, but I'm not going down with you." I walked out, not looking back, but I heard him call after me, "You'll regret this, Norman." That threat didn't scare me, it only made me more determined. Meanwhile, Willow kept calling, leaving voicemails begging me to talk like adults. I didn't respond, but Piper, now living with me, said Willow had gone to Lindsay's crying that she'd lost everything because of Otis. Piper, with a maturity I didn't expect from a 20-year-old, told me, "Dad, I think Mom was manipulated by Grandpa, but she also chose to do wrong. I don't know how to forgive her." I hugged Piper, saying forgiveness is a journey, and she didn't need to decide now. Tomas, meanwhile, started helping me gather more evidence. He contacted a tech-savvy friend who traced some secondary email accounts Greg used to communicate with Otis. One email revealed Otis promised Greg $20,000 to handle the Norman problem, but only paid $5,000 up front, why Carl betrayed Greg and came to me. The next twist came when I got a call from Sarah, my reporter friend in Riverside. She said she'd received a tip from an anonymous source alleging Otis was tied to a money laundering scheme through real estate investments in San Diego. The source, a former business partner of Otis, provided documents showing Otis used secret accounts to move money, including funds he used for my family's trip. Sarah asked if I wanted her to dig deeper. I said yes, but asked her to keep my name out of it for now. I didn't want to be the center of a public scandal, but I wanted Otis to feel the heat like he'd done to me. Days later, Sarah sent me a draft article, and it was explosive. It didn't just expose Otis's shady real estate deals, but mentioned his use of money to control family members with quotes from former employees. One of former assistants said Otis often bragged about teaching his son-in-law a lesson by cutting him out of family events. Reading that, I felt both vindicated and horrified. Otis wasn't just targeting me, he'd built a system to manipulate everyone around him. I told Sarah she could publish, but I asked her to anonymize sources tied to my family. She agreed, and the article hit the paper's website the next week, causing a stir in Riverside. Otis went off the grid, not answering calls or emails, and I heard from Kinsley he was hiding at a vacation home in Palm Springs. But the drama didn't stop. Willow, after the article dropped, showed up at my house unannounced the first time since moving to Lindsay's. She looked haggard, hair a mess, no trace of the confident woman who posted on Instagram. She begged me to drop all charges and forgive her, saying Otis forced her into everything that she had no choice. I asked Willow, how many chances did you have to tell the truth? You chose Otis and Greg over me, over the kids. Why should I trust you now? She cried. But this time I saw her tears weren't from remorse, they were from losing control. I told her to leave, and for the first time I felt I'd truly let go of Willow, not because I hated her, but because I didn't need her to feel worthy anymore. But another shock hit soon after. Piper, while cleaning her old room at Lindsay's, found a box of documents Willow had hidden. Inside were contracts, invoices, and a handwritten journal by Willow detailing her thoughts over the past year. Piper brought the box to me, saying, "Dad, I think you need to see this, but I'm not sure I want to know." I opened the journal, and what I read broke my heart and enraged me. Willow wrote that she loved me when we first married, but over the years, she grew to resent me for only working. She wrote about Otis, convincing her I didn't deserve the family and that the trip was her way to take back power. But what shocked me most was in entry days before my birthday, I hired Greg to follow Norman. If he reacts the way I think, I'll have a reason to leave without blame. It was undeniable proof Willow wasn't just manipulated, she actively planned to trap me, to paint me as the villain. I gave the journal to my lawyer, who said it could change the entire case if we go to court. But I didn't want to rush. I wanted Piper and Tomas to have time to process what they were learning about their mom. I invited them for dinner, and this time I held nothing back. I read a few journal entries aloud, not to make them hate Willow, but to show that love doesn't mean accepting betrayal. Piper cried, but said, "Dad, I still love Mom, but I can't be around her anymore. I want to stay here with you." Tomas, usually stoic, took my hand and said, "Dad, I won't let Mom or Grandpa hurt you anymore. I promise." Those words, you guys, were the strongest medicine I've ever had. But the story's not done. A week later, I got an email from Amanda, Willow's old college friend. She said she'd just met Willow at a San Diego cafe where Willow confessed she was planning something new to win me back. Amanda, disapproving of Willow's actions, called me because she thought I deserved a heads up. According to Amanda, Willow had reconnected with Greg the consultant to create a new scandal. Specifically, she wanted to hire someone to spread rumors. I was having an affair to discredit me with Piper and Tomas. Amanda said, "Norman, I don't know you, but I can't let Willow do this. She's not the person I used to know." I thanked Amanda and immediately contacted my lawyer. We filed a motion for a restraining order against Willow contacting Greg or anyone tied to illegal activities, backed by Amanda's statement and the PI's report. I also met with Piper and Tomas, telling them about their mom's plan. This time they didn't cry, they were angry. Piper said, "Dad, I'm done with Mom. I want to stay with you." Tomas, in a moment that made me proud, said, "I'm confronting Mom. She can't keep hurting you." He called Willow right in front of me, saying if she didn't stop, he'd go public with everything on social media, a powerful threat since Instagram is where this started. Willow called me the next day, begging me to withdraw the motion. She said she didn't mean to hurt me, that she was panicking about losing the kids. I didn't believe her anymore, but I agreed to pause the restraining order if she signed the financial agreement and joined marriage counseling with me, not because I wanted to reconcile, but because I wanted her to face the consequences of her actions in a controlled setting. She agreed, but I know it's only a temporary win. Otis, though quiet, remains a looming shadow, and I'm not sure he'll give up easily. Now, 5 months after my birthday, I'm standing at a place I never imagined. I still swim, still hike, and my book is taking shape not to expose my family, but to share what I've learned about self-worth. Piper lives with me, learning to make tacos and making me laugh with her college stories. Tomas comes every weekend, and we're planning a fishing trip, just the two of us, like old times. Willow and I are in counseling, but I know my heart's not in it. I've filed for divorce not out of anger, but because I deserve to live without looking over my shoulder. But last week, one more twist came. I got a call from a woman named Laura, a former employee at the resort my family went to. She said she was the one who sent the USB video after overhearing Otis and Willow talk about me at the front desk. She called to apologize, saying she felt guilty for not acting sooner. But then she revealed one final detail. Otis had tried to bribe resort staff to fake a video of me causing a scene if I ever showed up, as a way to bolster the narrative that I was unstable. Thankfully, Laura and her colleagues refused, which is why she sent me the real video. I thanked Laura, and for the first time I felt deep gratitude, not just for her, but for all the strangers from Carl to Amanda to Sarah who stepped up to help me when my family didn't. You guys, my story is the long journey from an invisible man to one standing firm in his own light. If you're watching and feel forgotten, manipulated, or overlooked, remember you have the power to change your story. It doesn't have to be a big drama like mine sometimes. It's one small step, like saying no or standing up for yourself. Share your story in the comments. I want to hear, and I'm here to support you. Thanks for staying with me through this long tale. Keep following, because I'll share more about what I'm learning, and I hope it helps you find your own strength.